Good afternoon to our wonderful audience, and we hope you are having a good day. Welcome to today's episode on the Afternoon Talks, the show that talks about a variety of topics, such as daily life issues, politics, gender roles, and many more, by having guests that share their opinion. Also, we target to have our show to be a good break for people throughout their day. Today's episode is going to be a bit different. We're going to be talking about cars and, in particular, the anime show Initial D. Discuss the influence it had on the car industry and how it managed to change the overview in the modern car culture. Also, we're going to connect the topic of cars to our Arab society and provide particular examples in this sect on YouTube and Instagram. So since we have so much to talk about on today's episode, you have with you Nour Halabi, and my guest today is Amir Zainuddin, a person who is passionate about cars and its industry. It is probably my first time to have a conversation about cars, so I'm curious to see how it goes. First of all, I'd like to thank Amir for joining us today on the show. So Amir, how are you doing?
Well, I'm good. I'd like to thank you for having me on your show today.
No worries. So, do you know what Initial D is?
Well, yes, of course, I know what the Initial D is. It's a very famous Japanese anime show that began airing during 1995 up until 2013. It's a really fun show to watch, as the baseline of the story is about a student who works with his dad in a tofu store as a delivery. Also, it became popular due to its emphasis on car racing and, in particular, drifting techniques.
Yeah, well, it's the first time I hear of this show, and I'm curious to share more information with you throughout this episode and spread some education about cars, as well as discussing the change that caused.
Apart from having Initial D to succeed in Japan and overseas, and particularly the US, Initial D did cause changes in the market, especially with its selling prices. Also, it introduced popular arcade games all over the world.
Yeah, well, I discovered that during my research for the episode that also these arcade games were named and modeled after the anime show, and it gave each new version of the game features such as new cars, tracks, conditions, and also improved the physics as well as it gave a better balance for of the cars.
Yeah, that's very true. And the icon of the show was the Toyota Sprinter Trono, actually, GT Apex, which is the AE86. This car was regularly basic, but still caused a change and had its popularity boom throughout Initial D.
But how so?
Well, the AE86 actually became a cultural phenomenon. However, prior to that, it was originally released under two different names due to the complexity of the Japanese automotive retail environment, which made it sell under two different Toyota sub-brands. There were two cars in the anime, the Corolla 11 and the Sprinter Trono. However, what made the AE86 unique was its headlights. Although these cars were extremely identical, their broader differences were the headlights, taillights, and badging. They both had a high reviving 1.6-liter engine, which was also similar to the Corolla GTS, which was recognized as the US version of the AE86. But this doesn't hide the fact that AE86 succeed in competitions like the Paris Dakar Rally and Australian Touring Car Championship, which was really big events. But the greatest boom of this car was when it became the poster car for a new fad, which is known as drifting. Drifting basically is the act of sliding a car around its corners, and it's accomplished by breaking traction in the rear tires, in effect requiring drivers to maintain their control on the car.
I also understood that because of these drifting scenes in Initial D with this car, it heavily influenced trends in Japan and people with interests in car in the US took up drifting. So this is why Initial D gained its massive amount of popularity among young car enthusiasts.